this will be a bit of a show and tell, which I think is what Chris sort of wanted. I hope that I make general points that have particular examples, perhaps specific to me, but you might be able to apply some of these things and think about how they relate to you. I wanted to use this as a launching off point. John Lamp said in a workshop last November, forget publish or perish, be visible or vanish. So the aim for this is to kind of explore different ways in which we could engage with a community. Very broadly defined. When I say community, I'm thinking industry, I'm thinking the so-called audience, the people I deal with in my digital board game research. So it's very broad kind of aim, but nonetheless, why is it important? Well, I've got a list of things here. Visibility, making research accessible, not only so people can get it, but also so that people can get it, so they can understand it through digital media potentially as one form. But not only that, it opens up future opportunities, grants, collaborative projects, testing of ideas, and I want to really stress it maintains motivation. It's hard to churn out those journal articles, but when you give talks to the local community like I have on a regular basis and use digital media, it really does kind of help you feel engaged with the world. This here, I'm using a quick Bubble Us visualization of what I've done over the last several years. A lot of people know my connection to the Jewish Holocaust Centre. I do monthly film screenings. I've been asked to present or to organise related events or non-related events through my engagement with the Holocaust Centre in different ways, whether it be a Rotary Club scaring them about
God, you're boring.
Who said that?
I said you're boring. Nobody's interested. They don't want this. They want to hear about digital media. You're boring me, you're boring everybody.
I hardly think that's called for.
Or hardly think that's called for. Look, you've spoken for long enough. Just take a seat and I'll take over from here. Sit down. Sit down. Sit.
You wait till I get home.
Yeah, I'll be waiting. And I'll be burning some of your precious board games in the meantime. Sorry everyone. I thought it was best for me to jump in here and give you a broad survey of some of the ways I use digital media to engage with various publics. I'll start with the more static professional profiles. And I'm going to begin with a site that's probably unfamiliar to you and might perhaps in one sense be one of the least important. But you never know what a site like About Me might bring you, as it's increasingly being used by a lot of industry practitioners for fast networking purposes. In fact, even if these kinds of sites do benefit you at some point, you might never actually know where the benefit came from. The main point that I'd make about this site is that even if it's relatively unlikely to grant you significant exposure or connections, it only takes 15 minutes to set up a page and it's completely free. About Me can actually serve as a really useful hub to link your other social media presences from, and could be a valuable link to include in an email signature, for example. Many would argue that academia, on the other hand, is an absolutely essential site to be on. It allows you to upload the details of all your publications and conference papers, and adding keywords to these is crucial, as this is what ensures that your updates get noticed by other users in related fields or with similar research interests. The statistics and notifications on this site are also really useful, as you can find out by email when someone's found you with a Google search, and academia also shows you what keywords they typed in and then found you with. You can also see how often your profile is being viewed, and also where it's being viewed from. Academia is essentially the academic version of LinkedIn, although this is not to say that LinkedIn is now redundant. This site actually changed its layout options in recent times, so that it can now easily and clearly list your research publications, which makes it even more useful for academics. Although it might depend on your discipline as to how actively people use it in your area. Another similar site was ResearchGate, which was designed principally for scientists, although it's being used increasingly by scholars in many other areas. It's not something I check or even update all that much, but again, it doesn't take much to have a profile on there, and it's completely free. Now we'll move on to the more social of social media sites. I find Twitter to be immensely valuable, and when I use it, I try to get a balance between the odd post about myself, such as the publication of a new journal article or a new blog post I've uploaded or a new video I've made, sharing links to various other resources that my followers might find of interest, and I engage in conversations with what is a highly active online community interested in tabletop gaming. This opens up avenues for talking directly with industry practitioners and the prod users or prosumers who actively contribute to contemporary board game culture through expanding, customizing and reviewing games. These kinds of connections would of course hardly have been possible, or at least would have been considerably more time-consuming and costly in the recent past. However, there are potential limitations to my approach, particularly in terms of needing to find the right balance in order to maintain a following when appealing to often niche and disconnected target communities.
Utilising the app Just Unfollow over the past several months has proven a useful way of tracking when anyone stops following me, thus possibly allowing me to determine why this might be, and, if I think that something needs to change, alter my practices accordingly. I also found that I needed to create a second Twitter profile this year to distinguish between my main account, which is primarily research oriented, and my use of Twitter for teaching purposes, so that I didn't alienate and annoy, and undoubtedly lose, my following from either persona. Another potentially useful option for researchers is to have a personal blog, and there are of course various blog sites you can use, such as this example here, which uses Blogspot. There's also Tumblr, which I use myself simply to share content that I've created elsewhere, particularly videos. My personal preference for my main site is WordPress, although other sites might suit different purposes better. The first post on my WordPress site was designed really to help me start thinking through the issue of gender and board gaming. This constituted preliminary research that didn't take as long to write, publish and get feedback on as it did for the book chapter that this eventually became. And embedding a strong research teaching nexus into my blog has helped me stay active when research time inevitably gets pushed to the background during teaching periods. I also developed a series of pages on my blog to promote my research publications, public presentations I've given, and events I've convened, essentially making it the virtual CV. You can pay a small amount to get more flexibility with the template and so on, but the site you're seeing here is completely free. The same goes for the website I put together for a conference I convened earlier this year. This allowed me the flexibility to update any details instantaneously, and I published special events connected to the conference from an early date. In the months leading up to the conference, after sending the CFP around various mailing lists, my co-conveners and I were really surprised in terms of the reach we had, not only in terms of visitors to the site, but also the countries that it was accessed from. We linked the draft program from Google Drive, where the document had been made publicly accessible. Google Drive used to be called Google Docs, and enables the efficient and effective creation, co-authoring, editing and storage of documents, spreadsheets and slides. It allows the simultaneous editing of the same document, with the ability to leave and respond to comments for collaborators, just like using track changes in Microsoft Word. Google Drive also automatically saves as you type, and downloads as a Word document onto your computer, preserving all the formatting. After co-writing several papers using Google Drive, and sometimes Dropbox when we've got files too big to share in other ways, I can guarantee that I will never undertake co-authorship in any other way. Of course, it's important to be aware of the constantly transforming opportunities. New applications come and go, but they generally remain just as intuitive to learn and user-friendly, if not more so. To further my engagement with contemporary board game culture, and the huge international community that sustains it, and also to sustain my own apparent fetish for playing board games, I've recently been keeping a close eye on Kickstarter, the crowdfunding platform that is arguably revolutionising the industry, with almost 200 live board, card and miniature game projects seeking funding as I speak. There are now over 4,500 tabletop projects that have been put forward over the past few years, the vast majority of them successfully funded. The site also has basic profile and discussion functions, which again have brought about direct contact from game designers. As part of this, I supported the crowdfunding of the ongoing activities of the Dice Tower, which was founded and continues to be run by arguably the world's most influential board game reviewer, Tom Vassell. In return for supporting his Kickstarter project, I was offered a shout out on his widely disseminated podcast.
Hey folks, we have a shout out for one of our Kickstarter backers, Adam Brown, a lecturer in media studies at Deakin University in Melbourne, Australia. He is focusing his research on board games. He wants to design a couple at some point in his life. So he'd love to be contacted by anyone doing research in area, and you can reach him by email, and we're going to put that email in the show notes. So you can contact him there.
And within 24 hours of this going out to the Dice Tower's substantial following, I had received 2 emails. One from an avid gamer keen to meet and collaborate, who we actually discovered works around the block from where I live. And another email from someone in Queensland who's considering undertaking a PhD on the pedagogical uses of gaming. The podcast shout-out also got me 3 marriage proposals, but that's beside the point. Now to talk a little bit about videos. But first, let's go to a commercial break.
Good afternoon and welcome to another Nappy Sand Door Challenge, where we put our product to the test through your clothing.
Actually, no, that's way too embarrassing. I still remember the days from year 10 through to year 12 in high school when my brother and I would avoid giving oral presentations for assessment by making very amateur movies.
We would carry around the huge camera from the school library on our shoulder and then sit up all night with 2 VCRs, that's video cassette recorders for any young viewers who don't know, and edit some very scrappy footage together. We had a lot of fun doing this, but when I started making digital movies a little over 12 months ago, things had obviously changed immensely. I've used videos to explore different strategies for communicating my research in accessible ways, and some of the videos I've made have arisen from things like a Holocaust art gallery I was asked to launch, an invited speech at the Holocaust Centre on the origins of my research, a book launch I attended, speaker presentations at the film screening events I've organised, an interview with a Holocaust survivor, and I've also screen captured Skype interviews with film directors and researchers from around the world. The great thing about YouTube culture is that imperfection and strategic degrees of the amateurish can actually be perceived and accepted as more authentic and professional than the ultra-professional itself. And if you hate the idea of putting yourself on YouTube, Vimeo is a useful alternative, although there are limitations in terms of what you can upload onto Vimeo on a weekly basis for free, and the site usually attracts significantly less views. Videos, like posts on blogs, Twitter, Facebook and Google+, might not only expand one's reach, but helps to make our work more accessible to a general audience, and therefore enhances its potential for impact. So the opportunities are many, and value often comes from where you might least expect it. But all of this raises the crucial issue of how we construct our online identities, and how we can do this strategically. My profile picture, which my sister has consistently told me makes me look like a bit of a tool, is intentionally hyper-professional to balance out all the weird stuff that I do on YouTube. Consistency is important, and a profile picture can be an anchor for whatever kind of online persona or personae you want to create. And the choice of photograph is obviously important. For example, if I went on a holiday to Queensland with my siblings, and my sister decided to dress me up with her blonde hair extensions and take a photo of me, do I really want to be disseminating that to anyone and everyone in the world? In terms of Kim Barber and David Marshall's categorization of the different kinds of academic personae, my online activity places me further from the formal and fixed broadcast style self, and more in the comprehensive self category, which blurs the professional and the private across a number of platforms. This is a really useful article to have a look at, by the way, as it maps out different strategies that one might use, but also takes care not to privilege one form of online self over another, as different variations will work for different people. Of course, by no means am I suggesting that digital media is now the be-all and end-all of research in the future, and that older forms are now redundant. A study that I did of the Jewish Holocaust Center's use of digital media in their Holocaust Museum showed me that technology can complement or enhance traditional forms of communication and research, but it doesn't replace them. Globalized communication via the internet doesn't give us everything. The good old peer review by those closest to us can still be of immense value. Tiffany, can you please have a look at that for me?
And of course, no device or application can ever equal the value of engaging with members of the community and witnessing the kinds of discussions and debates that I've seen at public film screenings and other speaking events. But the potential value of digital media is undeniable.
The other great thing about digital media, though, is the recyclability of content. The section that you just saw from the Holocaust Museum onwards was actually cut from the research profile video I made in 2013, although you could probably tell from the annoying screech of the cheap $10 headset I was using that I would have been far better off recording the audio on my camcorder or phone. Everything is always, in a sense, a work in progress, and since we're encouraging our students to become lifelong learners, we have to see ourselves as this as well. Well, that's all from me. I hope you found this an interesting, albeit far from comprehensive look at some of the potential benefits of digital media. Thank you for watching. You can get up now, dickhead.